Artificial Intelligence, Law and Justice, Session 21, AI Ethics and Law and Justice. This is in continuation of the earlier session, but with the specific context of AI Ethics and Law and Justice. So we can do a quick recap here. In the previous session, we discussed AI ethics in general, also looked into why it is necessary and then how to implement it. We also discussed as the various perspectives on AI ethics, including those questioning the universal values versus the relative diverse perspectives. Then we went into the UNESCO's principles of ethics, which have been universally accepted. But then we also looked into some of the issues in translating the UNESCO's principles of ethics or AI ethics into specific country level arrangements or rules or regulations or governance. Finally, we also went through some of the ideas that say that AI ethics has become a matter of ticking boxes, and then AI ethics is still caught in the dilemma of either too general with too vague, which could not be translated, or if translated, not the one that is very relevant or appropriate. So in this session, we will extend what we have discussed about AI ethics in the very specific context of law and justice. When we say that, we should also bear in mind AI ethics in the context of law and justice will raise its own unique questions, unique issues, unique challenges, but then the same is equally applicable whether when we talk of AI ethics in medicine, AI ethics in finance, AI ethics in education, AI ethics in healthcare, AI ethics in science, AI ethics in any of the field. For example, many of the human services, including education, health, nursing, and not to speak of other things like psychological counseling, also raise a whole lot of ethics when AI is being deployed there. It's also equally important to understand that AI ethics is not something that is being thrust upon or that is being put forth as something that is important. No, because these AI ethics becomes part and parcel of the larger discussion, larger discourse on how AI will impact the society, or from the perspective of those who are the users, the creators, as well as stakeholders in that particular specific sector or specific domain. So when it comes to AI and law and ethics, we need to reiterate some common things which we all know, but better to say them again so that we don't forget them or we don't try to understand them in this specific context. There are some key core legal values that can never be compromised or that can never be given up in part or in full to meet any objective. First, equal treatment under the law. We all know about, we discussed this elaborately in the rule of law principle. Then, public, unbiased, independent adjudication. This again comes under rule of law, again guaranteed by the Constitution. And whenever there is a legal outcome, whether by a court or by a forum or by a tribunal or by any appellate authority, there has to be a justification, there has to be an explanation, there should be what they call as speaking order from the person or from the authority which takes the decision and gives the judgment. So the procedural fairness and due process has to be observed. Has to be observed by the irrespective of the agency. Again, transparency in any legal substance process is equally important. So these core legal values flow from rule of law, flow from fundamental rights guaranteed, and also flow from various things that are part and parcel of administrative law's core principles. Now, the potential impact of AI, creating some negative impacts on them, is something which we need to be seriously look into. For example, AI when it is used indiscriminately, or AI when it is used without the understanding of that it could create some harm, can result in bias against certain groups. Similarly, the problem of elevating efficiency over due process, we discussed it briefly in another context. Is that okay? If we decide we need to find quick solutions, let us use AI. Let us quickly use AI for all the pending cases, write judgments. We use AI systems, right, left, and center. They decide, they give judgments. Some judges oversee them, and then we are done with that. We cannot take such a stand because elevating efficiency over due process may be an efficient solution, may be a cost viable solution, but that again will vitiate the whole idea of rule of law, and then it will also go against the constitutional principles. Then there are a whole lot of positive impacts of AI which we have discussed. So the ethical issues which are already there, particularly in the context of law and justice, will be there, and AI is going to add more to them and more concerns. It doesn't mean that AI, the ones that could arise on account of AI, are not novel. They are going to be novel, but we need to put two boxes here. One, the already existing issues in terms of ethical issues in law and justice, and the new ones that could arise on account of AI. Then we try to correspond or counterpose them and then try to understand whether AI makes sense in the light of the former, or how AI is going to affect the some of the core legal values. Then it will be easy to assess what sort of ethical perspective we should take on using AI in law and justice. Coming to that, we know about the legal definition, the problems in that description. Then AI in legal domain, we know that it could be predictive, it could be legal as of actual situations. Then AI can enhance the human reasoning, AI can enhance the judgmental capability. This and all we know. On the other hand, when it comes to criminal justice, we have been repeatedly seeing this, that there are some specific issues when it comes to AI, and ethical dimension or ethics is something that makes it all the more challenging or all the more important. When judges use AI to assess the likelihood of reoffending, AI assists in bail and sentencing decisions. The role of AI is permissible, is not permissible, is not one thing we are going into. We are going into how AI will impact the fundamental principles in criminal justice. See, that traditionally judges rely on witness testimony, criminal history, and then intuition, and then the broader contextual understanding, and also based upon their own understanding of the earlier cases, the larger, broader societal perspective they bring in. So they don't look at, as we saw in the earlier one, they don't look at persons as statistical numbers or the potential or probabilities of this and that. They look at persons as persons with agency, with rights, with responsibility, and with fundamental rights. But the problem is that when we translate AI or when we use AI for these purposes, AI is more based on algorithms, and then algorithmic understanding is very different from human understanding. Although you can say that algorithmic understanding resembles human understanding in many contexts or in more than one way, but they are not the equivalents. For example, data scientists predict based on the past experience, past data, and then what they identify as predictive factors. And then the judges or the juries, they know that past is important. And then past data is equally important. But then often they do not look at this solely on that basis and then take a decision. They look, as we said, things in a comprehensive perspective. So the problem here is that when we have AI models with risk factors, risk scores, and then they tend to obliterate or tend to overshadow the subjective element in the decision making. So when there is no subjectivity in AI development, within course the objectivity, that objectivity is something based on formulae, statistical reasoning, and then that's based upon algorithmic thinking. So inevitably, lots and lots of ethical issues will come and they need to be considered. We cannot substitute, as I said, AI for human thinking and human judgment in the name of enhancing efficiency or faster and then quicker disposal of cases and then giving judges. So equal treatment under the law we saw, then we should say law should be based on facts, not individual characteristics. AI system may proportionally have harm or benefit certain groups. And then the whole question of bias we have seen, and then the issues in AI systems design that also we have seen. So if we compare human decision making versus AI, we need to understand that we are not comparing some things that are identical. So all the ethical issues or all the ethical dilemmas which arise when humans decide have to be factored in when we talk in terms of algorithmic decision making or AI based decision making. So AI ethics is inevitably needed here to understand some of these concerns and address them. So in the sense that AI ethics cannot be something as an afterthought. It has to be a forethought that has to be part and parcel of a thinking on them. When it comes to transparency and explanation, transparency, as we have seen, is a core principle in AI ethics. interoperability problem is there because some of the things machine learning is easy to operate, easy to understand, but some of the ones like neural network and deep learning are very complex. Even the those who develop them may not be able to explain and fully understand, tell us. So AI or models may be accurate, no doubt about it, but humans may not be able to understand them. So in that case, transparency becomes a big zero or becomes something that is really doubtable. So AI systems can be deterministic and auditable. That is a good point with them. And what happens is that in case of AI models and data, often they become confidential business information. So public information is not available, and then trade secret laws and the non-disclosure agreements are there. And also there's the whole question of IP rights being granted to them. Whereas a judge, when he or she arrives at a judgment, cannot take recourse to data confidentiality unless it is really essential, nor can talk of some trade secrets or nor can take of some secrecy on account of the professional secrecy, but has to be very explicit, has to really reasonably justify, give lengthy explanations for the decisions, for the arguments accepted, not arguments, for the legal principles. So the human approach towards justice and law is based on discourse, narrative, storytelling, and then it is not something that ignores logic and rational. It does ignore rational. It does bring in logic and rationality, but put logic and rationality in a broader legal discourse, legal thinking, and then a decision is arrived at, and then it is being justified. On the other hand, such explanation may not be available from AI system, which may be talking to you or talking to us in terms of statistical parameters or statistical probabilities, or AI system may come up with a statement that say we decided this person was given bail or not given bail on account of the probability of this is this much, the probability of this is this much, and the probability of this is this much, and then the probability of this is not this much, and then based on these parameters, this criteria, this decision was given. This is very different from the normal judgments which are being read, interpreted, and understood. So, address this, we can talk in terms of explainable AI and then bring in some sort of explainable transparency into the way AI systems work. So, transparency is a norm in AI ethics, and it could be used as a guiding principle or as a something to measure and assess AI systems as to how transparent are they, how much of transparency is available from them when they take decisions. Having said that, we should also look into another thing called accountability, which we have again discussed this even earlier. So we also know that predictive AI systems do give recommendations. False precision of numerical scores, shift accountability from AI systems again raises the fundamental question as to who is accountable for what and to whom. And then accountability from public to private sector happens when the AI systems are developed by private sector and then deployed in public systems. Again, judges may adopt AI recommendations by default, thinking that AI has got huge capacity to think and it can never go wrong, or they may over rely on the AI systems than to think that they may be able to do a better job, or they may think that better to rely on AI systems because they are logical, they are rational, and then there's a whole lot of neural network, decision making, everything inbuilt. In such a circumstances, ethical issues are inevitable. So, if judges adopt AI recommendations without giving them a thought or without going into detail, and if that becomes by default, then the accountability will be a big question because ethical issues in AI arise from as to who is accountable to whom. And then that accountability cannot be wished away, cannot be sacrificed, or cannot be compromised on any circumstances. But when lawyers use AI systems, there are different sets of problems or different sets of concerns arise. Lawyers may be using it for different purposes, which we have seen. And then it's also possible that AI could outperform them in some aspects. It's also possible. And then AI systems being easily available, lawyers may be tempted to use them more frequently as a matter of convenience, as a matter of doing the job professionally. But not all lawyers will be familiar with AI. Not all lawyers will have the opportunity to AI tools. And more important, not all lawyers will have the access to AI tools. So just as we discussed about digital divide, Among lawyers, there could be an AI divide, a very potential one. In fact, it is there. As we know that it is the AI tools which are available only to large firms or lawyers with sufficient resources, and it is not available for public spirited lawyers or for legal service authorities or for lawyers who cannot afford them. So, as there is a digital divide among lawyers, there could be a AI divide. Lawyers who have access to AI tools, who have experienced them, who have capacity, who have built up expertise versus lawyers who are left out of this whole AI thing and who are still trying to come to grips with the development in law on account of AI. So this again would mean access to judges would be undermined because if majority of the lawyers do not have AI access to AI tools or not able to use them, but a minority of the lawyers have access to AI tools and are able to use them and are able to succeed. The poor who often goes to lawyers who may not have access to them, or when there is no publicly available AI tools which could be given to these lawyers or which is accessible to these lawyers to do pro bono cases, the potential undermining of access to justice and adjudication is always there. Again, there will be a divide. The poor will have less access to justice as the system shifts more towards AI based tools, and as some lawyers are more comfortable, more conversant, and more affordable to them. So, ethical concerns of AI use of lawyers is also a question of access, it's also a question of equity, and it's also a question of inclusion. And more importantly, how it will impact the lawyer's profession in the long run has to be seen. Then the power dynamics which we talked about, predictions may outperform this also we saw. So AI use actually may in the long run undervalue some of these central core principles. So if AI systems are going to be used very frequently or in large scale, it could result in over reliance on AI or taking AI as granted, forgetting the core legal principles or core legal values. And instead, people may say AI will know wrong, AI will always give the right judgment. We can rely more on AI than breaking our heads or trying to understand how it works or trying to see that way whether we are really able to make sense of what the judgment is about. So the power dynamics of AI may shift the power dynamics subtly, if not very certainly, towards AI, over reliance on AI, and then thinking that AI is the best solution, or AI can be relied upon to such a great extent that lawyers can focus upon other things than to do what otherwise they would have done. So this could again be a major issue: access to justice or the way legal system operates. So, central challenge here would be how AI may or may not impact shift core legal values towards AI. Then, how do we ensure that the crucial values are protected, preserved, even if the technological revolution transition happens, that the system uses more of AI tools, algorithmic thinking, algorithmic decision making in both civil and criminal jurisprudence. Then it is also possible that AI can be used to preserve central values. AI can foster and enhance values, betterment of the legal system and society overall. But this can happen only when this is taken as an objective and then the relevant AI tools are being developed, in the sense that AI tools which are developed adhere to the central values, core values. They ensure that those core values norms are being fulfilled. Similarly, they enhance human values, they respect and then enhance human respect for human rights, like that. So whether the balance will be tilted or not, we are not sure, but then potential for the balance getting tilted towards AI is very much there. When it comes to general AI, particularly in law, there are a whole lot of ethical issues which are again very similar to what we see. For example, lawyers must determine what sort of level of competency they need to use GAI tools. For one, GAI tools may be more complex, more not so easy to understand. At the same time, they may be too tempting in the sense that they are generative, general artificial intelligence, so people may have some naive or blind faith on them. Then confidentiality is a major issue when inputting data into GAI tools, because GAI tools may themselves may be vulnerable, they could be hacked, or they themselves may have a lot of privacy issues left unaddressed, or by default they have not paid enough attention to addressing the privacy concerns when the tools were developed. And then it is also a dilemma as to whether the lawyer should tell my client, dear client, I am a lawyer, I have expertise, but to inform you that I am using generative artificial intelligence in my profession, particularly in the cases I am dealing with, in that is your case. So AI, the use of AI, to what level of disclosure should be given by a lawyer, and then at what stage, and then to whom, and then in what capacity is also important. For example, the lawyer can say, I am willing to take up your case provided I give you the list of tools I'm going to use, and these are the tools I'm going to rely on. I assure you that I will adhere to my professional ethics, professional practice, and other norms, and then I will use these AI tools, and I also assure you that these are tools that are ethically acceptable. Or should the lawyer simply say that, leave it to me, leave it to me. I have my professional ethics, I know how best I should handle it, and I won't disclose you what tools, AI tools I'm using as a part of my legal profession. So, what level of disclosure should be mandated is also equally important. Then the lawyers should have the capacity, expertise to review the output from the AI tools, analyze them, and then also make the best use of them. So, what level of review they should do, what level of review they will be willing to undertake, and then how much are they going to rely on the AI tools is also a matter of questionable one, because if they overlay on AI tools, it may end up in they compromising their professional ethics, because in that case they may be thinking that AI tools are perfectly fine, and then right, left, and center may not be doing the accountability or the supervisory role. Then question of fees would come. Then the question of rapidly changing GI tools, and then how do the lawyers come to grips with them, how they are able to really come to understand and deal with them. That is one aspect. Second aspect is that if the technology advances, if the technological systems advance, if the tools that you are going to use become also obsolete, or every third month there are a whole lot of new legal AI tools come in the market and are developed, which make some sort of obsolescence to the previous AI ones, AI tools, what exactly the lawyer should deal with? So, the rapidly evolving technology, lawyers will also face this dilemma as to what level of technological updation and adaptation they should do, or what level of technical expertise they should have on one hand, and technical tools they should have on other hand. So this is again is the question which they need to really address if they really want to depend on AI as a part of their profession. But dealing with this technology will be an issue not just for them, it will also be an issue for judges, judiciary, for the government, and then for other stakeholders. Then the question of risk of inaccurate output we have already seen. So the ethical issues also come here. On account of the risk of these inaccurate outputs and then misleading conclusions, including fake citations, hallucinations, ethical concerns come. And then lawyers should also be aware of some of the ethical potential concerns over here. So, if lawyers are not able to fully understand GAI tools and then understand the risk and then takes either insurance policies or take some proactive measures to deal with them, then ethically the questions would come as to what are their professional responsibilities, whether they have failed in them or whether they have been in part or in full, have not fully observed them in practice. So if the lawyer end up in giving an inaccurate advice or files in a petition which is full of errors which were again drafted by AI, question of all the responsibility accountability will come. Can we use AI ethics to help lawyers? Yes, AI ethics can help lawyers, because if the moment lawyers are able to understand the key AI ethics principles that should be incorporated in their day-to-day working in using AI tools as well as part of their professional ethics, then they will be able to know what exactly they should do when they deal with AI tools. They'll be able to talk about accountability, they'll be able to talk about transparency, and then their own accountability and transparency, not just to the clients but also to the whole system. So, question here is the next level. The job displacement can happen in legal services. In fact, it is happening because many of the routine things that could be done by junior level lawyers or interns or people who are just new to the profession are slowly but steadily going towards AI systems that can integrate many tasks. And then we talked about AI agents being used in legal services. So on one hand, AI can do a whole lot of things. It can enhance legal services, it can increase efficiency, it can be quick, fast, and then do a lot of things which humans struggle even as teams. On the other hand, what would happen is that it could also ensure that many lawyers may end up as potentially unemployed, or potentially they may not have any opportunities to survive as lawyers, because if many of the things can be done by AI based systems, they what they can do. A junior lawyer, if he or she is not able to find clients, or if he is not able to invest in AI tools, and then if the situation becomes so much that only those with AI tools are able to flourish and survive, what will they do? And more importantly, the job displacement happens if a major firm with a whole bunch of AI tools can automate many things. It can also result in job loss or displacement for many junior level lawyers who otherwise would have been practicing independently. So the question of bias, transparency again comes. Sensitive legal areas like child custody, criminal justice, and divorce settlements, we need to really look into to what extent we are compromising, or what extent the question of transparency is also should be there. In the sense that certain things which are very critical data, for example, images of children, data pertaining to children, and then some of the personal data, particularly the health data, often gets integrated into legal databases or legal documents. So ethical issues arise even if we say that they are not something which are new. They are already there. But then when we use AI, they become all the more acute. So how do we develop systems that are ethically sensitive with ethical integrity, or how do we develop protocols and standard operating procedures to deal with them? The guidelines, best practices are is equally important. One way to address is that, as we have seen, humans should be in the loop, and then humans should be the one who take the final decision. But retaining and then preserving the human element in the legal practice is equally important. But to what level the human element should be kept and then preserved, or what level of automation can be thought of and decided upon, is something that needs to be figured out. So we cannot address these issues unless we pay attention to AI ethics principles, precedents in AI ethics, and then this AI ethics will supplement and complement the current professional ethics. It will not replace them. Mind you, again and again, AI ethics is not something that is going to replace what are the duty bound, what the professional lawyer should do. It is going to only add certain things to his tools, in the sense that your professional guidelines will be supplemented and complemented, maybe rewritten on account of AI, but then they will never vanish, nor they will be substituted solely by AI ethics. So, understanding this in the concept of evolution, first stage was moderate to innovative stage, which has happened in the last few decades, particularly when large firms tried to do automate certain things, went for digitization, also incorporate some sort of AI tools into them, but then they relied more on typical database access, drafting at those level, but not fully into the AI based systems. The second and significant advance which is happening now is this. So technological tools enhancing the legal process are already there. And then the level of AI getting integrated in legal process is happening at different levels, which we saw, particularly India, it is there in the Supreme Court, although it has not percolated down to trial courts. And then we also know that in different countries, different context, complex algorithms have been used in pre-trial and sentencing stages. So as technology advances, as new applications develop, AI use in AI legal practice is more and more becoming common, and then is getting enhanced. Ethical issues will have to be tackled; they cannot be wished away. So, what exactly is the profession doing about it? Are they really sleeping over it, or are they saying that we will leave it to the individual lawyers, or the district bars, or the state bars to decide? We will not come up with no. Different organizations, different institutions have come up with different things. I am giving here a small list because if we go through this list, you will understand what these institutions are doing. The American Bar Association last year came up with a comprehensive guidelines, and then where it mentioned about what are the first ethics issue guidelines for and when they use AI tools. Similarly, Lexis Ethics has also come up with the ethical issues which the legal lawyer should be aware when they use AI. Then, emerging consideration for pro bono work and access justice has been laid out by a pro bono organization. Similarly, generative AI, ABA, American Bar Association come up with some specific guidelines. And then different state level ethical lawyers organizations or bar organizations have come up with different guides. What we are talking of is not pertaining to US alone. Similar developments have happened in Ireland, similar developments happened in different countries in Europe as well as in UK. So these guidelines and good practices are being now developed so that the lawyers are comfortable in dealing with AI on one hand, and the other hand, it is also something that professionally it guides them to do what they should not do or what precautions they should take when they use AI as part of their legal practice. So AI ethics is very relevant because it is inevitable to be used when there are some arising concerns and then ethical issues arise on account of use of AI, and some of these are very new. But as if see, the problem is translating this AI ethics into specific legal guidelines and then identifying them or translating them and then putting them into practice is something that will supplement the available professional ethics and ethical practices, not it will not replace them. So the lawyer's perspective, AI is going to be there, ethical issues are bound to be there, and then they need to make themselves all the more aware, all the more sensitive to them, and more importantly, they need to keep on learning. The sense that AI's ethics is not something that you can learn in a one or two session and then forget it, because new issues will come, technology advances, new ethical principles may emerge, and then many of things have to be contextualized in the sense that how do you reconcile professional ethics with a new dilemma that arises on account of AI being put into practice in a specific system. So these things have to be discussed by the stakeholders, particularly the lawyers, and then the bar associations, and then also with the larger legal system, including the Department of Justices, government machinery, and all. So conclusion here is that AI ethics is bound to stay. In fact, it is going to play a major and a larger role, particularly in the long run in the lawyer profession, and it will be something that is very similar to the justice system also. In the next class, we will be discussing about responsible AI. We had two sessions on AI ethics in the context of law and justice, but the responsible AI discussions will be something that will be the logical sequence of that, because from ethics to responsible AI, we will be seeing as certain things that are common, but then certain things that are very distinct. And why are we talking of responsible AI? Responsible AI is not a substitute for AI ethics or vice versa. Responsible AI and AI ethics are two things that can be taught of right hand and left hand when it comes to application of AI in law and justice.